Okay, good evening, folks, and welcome to the City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is February 9th, 2009, and this is a public hearing. We have several matters on for tonight, so anybody wishing to address the board, please, you can only address the board from the podium, and it would really help if you state your name and your address for the record before you speak. That way we don't interrupt you. If more than one person is speaking, please just wait until the other person's finished, because this is also being recorded at home. People are watching it on television, and they can only see at the podium, so we'd appreciate your cooperation in that regard. Like I said, there were several petitions on for tonight. We have, I'll name the petitions generally, and then we'll go specifically in order. There are two continuances on tonight. One is regarding 251 Mount Vernon Street, and the other one is regarding 43 Arlene Street. As for new business, the first petition, and we'll take them in this order, is Bell Atlantic Mobile, and that's 141 Marginal Street, also known as 106 Marginal Street. The second one is 84 Midland Street, and the third one is 1774, 1776 Middlesex Street. And the final petition will be 278 Central Street. So we'll take them in that order. As far as the continuances, we'll take the first one, ZB number 2006-47. This is continued from 1/26/2009. This is a petition for administrative review of previously granted relief. The applicant is Ann Barton from the City of Lowell, 251 Mount Vernon Street. It's an M4 residential district, and the petition is to reaffirm the special permit and variance granted in December of 2003, but not exercised, to substitute the non-conforming use of storage warehouse to studios for musicians without the required parking in the former M4 zoning. Would a representative for 251 Mount Vernon Street please address the board? Ms. Barton, welcome.
Thank you. I just made it. I have a handout, if this would help. If I could just give this to Bob. But briefly, Mr. Chairman and members, the environmental work that we discussed at the prior meeting is still ongoing at 251 Mount Vernon Street, but it's nearing completion. As of this date, there is 1 day of testing remaining, and the snow has hampered that a bit, but as soon as we get a little bit of melt ahead of us, we can do that one more test and complete the reporting by mid-March. Once that's complete, the environmental consulting firm will prepare a separate activity and use limitation for this parcel, an AUL. And that has been our objective all along, because the original site was the entire school site contained this parcel, and we need to carve this out as an individual parcel to meet our obligations under the settlement agreement. Once we have an individual AUL for this parcel, the Turcos, the party in this settlement, will commence with renovations to the building. They've had an architect on board, and we've been working with them over the last couple of years. Once they've completed the renovations and have occupied the building, the city will convey the property to them. They will become the owners, along with the needed parking easements. It's likely, and I've been in contact with their attorney, that they will come back to you individually to request some to reconsider some certain conditions that had been imposed earlier relative to their business operation, and that's something that they can talk to you in much more detail about than I could, the type of business they run and what they feel would be better conditions as far as their hours of operation. But they will come into you individually on that matter and handle it with their own counsel. So I would just beg the board to keep in mind this was a very complex site. It was a simple but complex settlement agreement. It was necessary to keep the school on track and to complete the demolition necessary to keep building. We were fortunate to identify as well some funds through our Brownfields program to do this needed environmental work, so the city wouldn't have to absorb those costs and achieve the separate AUL. So I'd like to request an extension, whatever length is allowable, until we can complete this work and therefore complete our obligations under the settlement agreement.
Okay, bearing in mind that this has been hanging around since 2003, what are you looking for, what do you think is a reasonable time frame to finally, have this matter disposed of?
Well, I would think if we have the AUL by mid-March and renovations could be a potential 6 to 8 month period, it could be maybe a year at the most that I would ask, and that way we wouldn't have to be back before you again, if that's possible, if that's allowable and you'd consider that. Or we'd happily come back to update you on the progress in 6 months if you'd like.
I think I'd prefer, an update before a year. Just letting something go that long, I think that's what's happened in the past, and I think we need to stay on it just to see it to completion somehow. It's just been, we can't treat the city any differently than we would treat any other applicant, and it has been hanging around for a long time, and I don't know that, that's something that the board, it's just my opinion, but that the board is willing to do. But I think that, I understand your position, and I think that you've gone this far, we might as well see if you can do what you're trying to do, and hopefully it all ends well. Is there anybody here wishing to speak on behalf of this project, either in favor or opposed? Anybody wishing to address the board on this matter at all? Okay, well, there's no input from the public regarding this, so we'll open up to the board for discussion. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, anything?
No questions.
Okay, Jack?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. I think that what is important, at least we get an update. This has been around a while, and certainly we want to do everything we can to help the city. But I think your opening statement and remarks are right on the mark in that we have to be fair and treat every individual, even if it is the city, who comes before the board. That being said, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and I think that the very least we can expect from the petitioner is for them to come back before us and give us an update on exactly what's going on. Thank you very much. Okay,
Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do concur with you that is a 6-month review is needed so that we can get updated from the petitioner in this case.
Okay, Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. This project has been lingering, without a doubt, but nonetheless, I think it's a good project, and I would like to see it come into fruition. But as Mr. Knox and Mr. Noon stated, I would like an update in approximately 6 months, and if possible, if it's within our jurisdiction, a 1-year extension, if possible. Thank you.
Well, I think what we'd have to do if that's, and I'll let these guys speak too, but I think if we're going to do that, we'd want to have them come in, we'll extend it for 6 months, and then we'll make our decision at that point. I think that way we retain some control over where the project's going. Kevin?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
And Rick?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, about a 6 month extension at one at a time, see how we go with this project. Ian? I know it's an ongoing project. I worked with you on it before.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty familiar with it.
I know that they're going to look for relief. Are we going to be, will they own the building before we give them relief? Will they take ownership of the building, then they're going to come back to us looking for some more relief from the...
I don't want to speak for them. The last contact I had with their attorney was that he would prefer to come back individually. I didn't talk in detail about whether that would be after the conveyance or before that. They may want to come sooner than that before they start to make an investment to be sure that the conditions are agreeable with the operation of their business. And I think it primarily centered around the hours of operation, if I understand them correctly.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, Stephanie, what is the next regularly scheduled meeting after August 9th in 2009? If you know, just give you a minute to check that out. In the meantime, guess we can consider a motion to entertain, a motion to extend for 6 months.
Should we wait for a date, Mr. Chairman, before the...
Let's say August 10th.
10th?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with that being said, I'll make a motion to extend the petition until August the 10th, 2009.
Second the motion.
Okay, roll call, Stephanie, please. And you can just call the 5 voting members.
Continue.
Continue?
Continue until August 10th.
Continue until August 10th.
Continue.
Okay, Ms. Barton, this matter's been unanimously continued to August 10th, 2009. There'll be no further notice to anybody. You're required to pair, at that time, anybody wishing to address the board regarding this petition. There will not be any more public notice, so you are required or invited to come to the board meeting that night and address the board. Thank you very much. Okay, the next petition is a continuance from the last meeting, and this is 43 Arlene Road. This is a traditional single-family district. The petitioner had requested to construct an addition to a single-family with insufficient side yard setback in accordance with Article 5, Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Would a representative of 43 Arlene Street please address the board? Welcome again. Thanks, Bob. Okay, you can just you can bend that right down, the microphone. Just pull it right down towards you.
Okay.
And please state your name and address again for the record.
Olivia Potanek, 43 Arlene Road, Lowell, Mass. 01851.
And you're speaking for your parents?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I remember the at the last meeting, we had some suggestions and some concerns about what you were proposing.
Yes.
And we wanted you to go back and talk to Mr. Aho and probably talk to Mr. Camacho and see if you could figure out exactly what we were looking for you to do. It appears as though you've done that. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the board?
We talked to the constructors about expanding the house in the back
Right.
instead of the side, and they said it was better to do it on the side because the backyard has a slope, and it would be much harder for them.
Because of the shape of the land, that's why you couldn't do it there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And as for the shed, we're going to move it, but we're not planning to expand the house anytime soon anyways, so we'll move it before we do that.
Right, I think that was just a, just kind of a for your information type of thing that we brought up. So the renditions, what about, I see that you've handed out a blown-up version of the street, or the plots on the street. I guess, were you able to get some sort of rendering, artist rendition of what the proposed project would look like at its completion?
We just drew how it was going to look
sketch?
like after.
I see that that's a floor plan. So what we're looking at, which will, Mr. Clerk, will become part of the record, is a proposed addition with, on the left-hand side, both ends, bedrooms, a bathroom on one end, and a bedroom again in the middle with a closet, a kitchen, dining room, and a living area.
Yes.
Now, my notes tell me that we were also looking for some sort of final product rendition, nothing fancy, but just something to tell us what this project may look like at its completion, the outside, the exterior.
The outside?
Yeah. How it will look once it's attached to your house. Mr. Commissioner, do you know if they had addressed that issue at all?
They were in my office, and I asked them to get a hold of the contractor to give us a sketch of what the outside would look like, front, side, and rear.
Right.
I did speak with Mr. Harho, and except for that, the elevation of what the addition would look like attached to the house, they seem to have brought everything else in, but I don't know why they haven't brought in the other piece yet.
Okay. All right, well, your proposal is for to extend to the right side of the house out 12 feet and back 26.8 feet. And you've given us the interior plan. I think what's missing is just from, again, what the commissioner was saying is some sort of an artist rendition or something, a rough sketch of what the house will look like from the outside with the addition on, a proposed final project. So, the board could consider this and make that a condition that prior to you pulling a building permit, that you, rather than come back, that you present it to the building department, and the building department will present it to this board for review. But just so we're very clear, what we're looking for, you did very well giving us what you've given us. But there's one piece that's missing, and it's kind of the piece that maybe, people surrounding there might be more interested in, to see what the outside's going to look like. And that would be something your contractor would probably sketch out for you or give you an idea. We're not looking for anything elaborate for you to spend a lot of money on it, but we do require that from everybody. And the board could consider approving this if they did approve it, with the condition that you present it to the board within a certain amount of time. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Do you? Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor of this petition? Okay, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition of this proposal, in opposition? Okay, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and now we'll open up to the board for consideration. Bill, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one comment. Mr. Commissioner, what's the purpose of this handout here?
I'm not sure, that's the first time I've seen that. On your larger handout,
Why did he draw it?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's
Yep.
an elevation plan. They're trying to establish elevations. It's a tough elevation plan to read, but it's elevations.
I think when we suggested maybe the addition in the back,
correct.
this might show that there's a slope.
Why it was difficult, correct.
Okay.
Okay. The only other comment I would make, Mr. Chairman, was we had a question about the fence and the boundary line, and I think we were right in our assumption. The existing fence that's up there, I think it shows that they do, the shed is on their land, and I don't see, did they say they were going to move the shed?
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's why I
does
said,
not need-
that was kind of for your information. You may, we're not land surveyors by any means, so, but there are ways to find out that the shed is possibly on your land. It turns out that it probably is. So don't go making plans to move your shed without having your land officially surveyed to show that you have an encroachment. You may not and probably don't,
Okay.
okay? But that was the kind of side, but thank you,
Yeah.
Bill.
The only other thing I would suggest, I would like to move forward with this, if, to your suggestion, if maybe they can put together a plan that shows the addition and the lines, that if it could be presented to the building commissioner, and if we could use that as a condition, if possible.
Right, I think we can, there's been no opposition. I think they've tried to do everything in good faith. They tried to do their due diligence and have done most of everything, but I think it's important that we do get that before they build pull a building permit, so I agree with
That's
you.
all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Jack?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioner, this is an updated rendering here?
It is.
Yeah, then my colleague, Mr. Bailey's right, then obviously that for their information, it would not be necessary to move the shed because it is on your own property, and the property line is within and the chain link fence. All that being said, I would agree with the chairman and also Mr. Bailey that I would be in favor of moving ahead with this petition. If the petitioner is willing to accept the condition that they submit a rendering that we find acceptable, prior to seeking the building permit. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. And Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the new plot plan, thanks to the commissioners who actually, on behalf of the petitioner, make the call to Mr. Aho, and Mr. Aho for agreeing to revisit this plan and provide us with an update one, which is a correct one. And with regard to the sketch of what's going to be built, I have spoken to them subsequent to the last meeting. They indicated that they have no plan of doing it right away, and they know that in order to pull the building permit, they have to have that to the building commissioner to have that approved. And it would be great that we also will make a condition that they do so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. And you're aware that if this is granted tonight, that you have a certain amount of time to do it, or you lose that variance?
Yes.
And it's not guaranteed that you'll get a variance again. In fact, it makes it more difficult the next time, just so you know.
Okay.
So you could talk to the building department, make sure you're within the allotted time frame to do that.
Okay.
Okay, if your plan is not to do it right away. And Corey?
Yes, so you, Mr. Chairman. I do support the project, as I did a few weeks ago. It would have been nice to see, I'd like to see an artist rendition of what it's going to look like, and as the other board members have stated, they can easily submit that prior to pulling a building permit. It would have been nice to see this in the rear of the home, but with the topography of the land, that looks a little impossible. So I'm going to work with the petitioner, but again, I would like to see an artist rendition. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Corey. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just referring to my notes from the last meeting, petitioner also suggested they had a petition with signatures from neighbors that were in support of that project. It would be helpful if you could share that with us.
Do you have something to present to the board with signatures from neighbors who
We
support it?
had that before. Oh, they only signed one of the papers, and we already handed it in.
I
the
think you
last
did,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we made that part of the record last time. I do remember seeing it.
Okay. We asked about the driveway location. I think that's shown more specifically on the plan, the plot plan today.
And we took pictures, too, if you want to see it, of the driveway.
That's okay. I've seen the property, but thank you. I think one of the questions was, would there be any changes to the driveway? And you said before that there would not.
No.
Okay. And through the elevation plan and visually looking at the lot, clearly there's some level of hardship based on the slope of the lot, and it's helpful to submit this elevation plan. But as a consequence of the elevation, one other thing that would be important as part of the construction and that the building department will want to see is to make sure that there is no runoff or drainage onto your neighbor's property, because you'll be creating more impervious surface. Basically, you don't want any of the water coming off your property into your neighbors. So that'll be important to address as part of the plan. But in general, I'm supportive of this petition, and there's a hardship defined here. It'd be important to see the rendering as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Rick?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Bob, is it necessary for us to impose a condition regarding the drainage? Is that something that can be handled internally through the building department?
That's automatic with the building permit. That'll be reviewed by engineering.
Okay, good. So we don't have to address that. Okay. Anybody on the board have anything else to offer? Okay. We need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve with the following condition, that prior to pulling a building permit, an artist rendition of the project upon completion be submitted to the building department for this board's review.
Second the motion.
Okay, we need roll call. Stephanie, please.
Approved with conditions?
Approve with conditions?
Approve with conditions?
Approved with conditions.
Approve with condition.
Okay, ma'am, you've been approved unanimously with the condition that you provide the board with a sketch, an artist rendition prior to pulling a building permit. If you're at all confused about anything in this process, we suggest that you, before doing anything, you talk to Mr. Camacho in the building department or one of his representatives. What I do need you to do is come up here and just sign this paperwork and hand it over to Stephanie.
Okay.
And when you go over there, be very careful because there's wires that you'll trip over.
Okay.
Okay? So why don't you come up to the board? Please sign all 3 of these and date it. Today's February 9th, 2009. Anywhere you want, in the margin, anywhere. And if you could just step behind Mr. Camacho and hand that to Stephanie for the file, I'd appreciate it. Good luck. Okay, the next petition on the agenda is ZB 2009, number 2. This is a special permit for telecommunications. The applicant is Bell Atlantic Mobile of Massachusetts Corporation, DBA Verizon Wireless. The representative is Attorney Earl Duval. The property address is 141 Marginal Street, also known as 106 Marginal Street. I believe it's in an institutional zone. The petition is for installation of telecommunication antennas on an existing smokestack and an adjacent equipment shelter according to section 7.6 of the zoning code. Counsel, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, my name is Earl Duval, and I represent Verizon Wireless. Along with me this evening is Andrew Pearsall, real estate for Verizon Wireless. Before the board is an application for a special permit for Verizon Wireless's proposed communication facility at 106 Marginal Street, and that's to be located on an existing facility, an existing smokestack in which there are already 2 other telecommunication providers. Along with our application, we filed somewhat of an extensive statement in support of the application and have attempted to specifically reply to all the sections in 7.6 telecommunications facilities. Also, along with the application, I've included 13, I think, different tabbed exhibits, including the zoning drawings, equipment specs for the facility, coverage maps, an affidavit from our radio frequency engineer, and a structural analysis for the smokestack. Just to briefly give an overview of the facility, I think it might be helpful for each of you to turn to tabbed exhibit number 7. And what exhibit number 7 are the photo simulations of the facility. The photo simulations include both the existing conditions and the proposed conditions.
Attorney DeVal, have you had
Yes.
an opportunity to review the comments by the planning board or the engineer, city engineer? I don't know if you had them. Just before you go any further, I'd like to give you an opportunity just to read this. If
Yeah,
if you'd like.
I apologize, but I have not received anything.
We just got them too, but I
Okay.
think, and I'll give you a second. I'm sorry to spring this on you like this,
No.
but this is,
That's okay.
I believe it's the first one.
If you'd like, I can go through the overview, or I can address.
If you could just, I mean, we don't, this is a separate hearing altogether, so you're welcome to proceed in any way you'd like. If you want to just address that, and because I know the board members have all seen that, so
Okay.
maybe they can get that off their mind and we can focus on the petition at hand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you. I guess the first comment, structural engineers recommended repairs must be completed before proposed antennas are installed. The exhibit number 13 is the inspection by International Chimney Corporation, and those repairs will be made by Verizon Wireless, prior to
Okay.
installation of the facility. Proposed equipment shelter and proposed propane tank are sited directly in the fire lane to be built by Brazzi Development. Did we?
I guess the main concern, Earl, would be that the planning board had voted to continue this matter, only because they're saying that the proposal is located on a development site that is seeking a special permit and site plan approval from the planning board. The planning board is having a public hearing regarding that on February 19th, 2009. I don't know if you were aware of that or how it affects what you're doing, if at all. But I just wanted to call it to your attention because that's what they've called to our attention.
Okay. We were aware of the development that's been ongoing by Brazzi, but we were not aware that, and we've looked at several different renditions of plans, but we're not aware at all that our proposed facility would be, in a fire lane.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, I mean, I just don't want the two petitions, one thing affecting the other if that's not what you want either.
Right. What sort of recommendation
Well,
might
you could, there are a couple of things. I don't know what kind of time frame, and we could continue this until the first meeting after February 19th, which probably would be our next regular scheduled meeting here. And we could, vote, if the board agreed to do that, we could vote to continue this matter. That way you could address, Brazzi could address the planning board with those issues, and maybe you come here with a lot of answers to questions that probably are gonna come up tonight. And, I guess the other option is you go forward, but we would have no way of knowing about that, fire lane issue, unless you have an answer for us.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
No need to, no, it's not your fault at all.
We're surprised.
Not your fault at all.
I
This
wish my
happens.
network team was in the hall and they could come in, but
Right. So maybe the most practical thing to do is to continue it until our next regular scheduled meeting after the 19th, which I believe is the 23rd. So it's shortly right after that. You're only talking a couple weeks, 2 weeks from tonight. And that way, you'll be able to answer a lot of what I anticipate the questions this board will have, if that's acceptable to you. You also have a right to go forward, but I think
no,
without that information, you might.
right. I think it's prudent for us to continue. And we appreciate the courtesy and the opportunity.
Okay, anybody, a motion to continue? Does anybody have anything to say about that? Well, before we do that, did anybody show up here tonight wanting to address the board regarding this petition at all? Anybody wanting to address this board in favor of this petition? In favor? Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition of this petition? Okay, so nobody's prejudiced here. There's nobody came to speak that's not going to be allowed to speak. We'll open up to the board for consideration. Anybody have any comments, Bill?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Jack?
I think it's an excellent recommendation. The petitioner, I think, would serve themselves very well to take the continuation until it's resolved. There are several other issues going on with Brassy and that whole development that I'm sure you're aware of, and I think it would be prudent on your behalf to wait until it's resolved. Thank you.
Okay, Vesna?
No comments.
Okay. Corey?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
And Kevin?
No comment, Mr.
Rick?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I need a motion to continue.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue till February the 23rd, 2009.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please, Stephanie?
Continue. Continue.
Continue?
Continue until February 23rd.
Continue to February 23rd.
Continue.
Okay, Mr. Val, it's been continued unanimously until February 23rd. There's no further requirements on your part. You don't have to notice anybody again. Anybody who is wishing to speak in favor or against this project is encouraged to show up that night. Thank you very much, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay, our next petition is ZB 2009, number 3. This is a petition for a variance. The applicant is Gloria, if I'm saying it right, Yepes, and Timothy Lawler, 49 Midland Street. This is located in a traditional two-family district, and the petition is to construct an addition with insufficient front yard setback on an undersized lot according to Article 5, Section 5.1 of the code. With any representative from 84 Midland Street, please step up to the podium, sign in, and address the board, please. Welcome,
Hello.
sir.
How you doing?
Hi.
Mr. Chairman and members, my wife and I are indeed seeking a variance on a corner lot on Lipton and Midland Street.
Okay, let me ask you a question on the same line that I asked the last petitioner. We do get comments from the planning board and from the city engineers, and I'll just read you the city engineer's comment regarding your addition. It says, there is a sidewalk on Lipton Street for a short distance. With the upcoming CSO work on Midland Street, it is not out of the realm of possibility that the city could be installing a sidewalk further down Lipton in the future. The proposed setback of 1.5 is much too small to allow the city to maintain the sidewalk. Also, a structure this far out of the property line would be a sight distance hazard for any vehicle leaving their own driveway. Engineering would prefer a 20 by 12 or possibly a 20 by 14 proposed addition as opposed to what you proposed. Any addition will need to address the stormwater runoff, as we mentioned earlier, and roof gutters will not be allowed to drain off the property. That's part of the building department. So I think the concern is regarding the size of the addition as opposed to the size of the lot. So if you'd like to tell us, if you've had an opportunity to review this, and if not, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
I haven't had an opportunity to review that. I could tell you that it is my opinion that constructing a sidewalk on Lipton, connecting it to the partial sidewalk right off of Midland, would probably affect at least one porch, if not two, which are directly on the street. It would cost at least one homeowner to rebuild his porch, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I saw that too. I agree with you there.
I don't know whose responsibility that would be, but I'm glad it's not mine.
Yeah.
And in terms of the site, I can see the engineer's point. I think I disagree with it in the sense that the remaining yard would be at least 14 feet from the pavement to the house. And I think that 14 feet would give ample sight, either coming or going. That's my opinion.
Okay. So what do you want to tell us about this addition? Is it, I see that you've handed in something from GPS that shows the street and the neighborhood and the size of your lot as opposed to the others with the different additions on. So my review of going by the property, it seems like it's something that would not be any detriment to the neighborhood at all. If anything, an improvement, but I do see the size issue, but you know, there may not be a big issue there in my mind either, but I do see what they're talking about. It's getting very close to the sidewalk there.
If I was
Is there
an
anything you'd
engineer, I
like to
would
tell
agree.
us about that, or the, what you've handed in?
Well, my contractor, Mr. Boucher.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Boucher. I'm owner of P&R Boucher Builders. We're located at 155 Broadway Road in Drake, Mass. I'm working with Tim and Gloria on first the design of this project and then trying to offer some assistance in the application for the variance. Mr. Aho had included the GIS renderings of some...
Mr. Boucher, I don't mean to interrupt you, can you just, I guess, one at a time, because I think they can probably hear half of what you're saying. These mics are pretty sensitive.
Excuse me. Mr. Aho, the surveyor, is the gentleman that had included in his package for me the GIS maps of some representative properties in the neighborhood that abut streets that would share a distance equal to the distance that Mr. Lawler and Gloria are seeking. So I think it was for a representative purpose to show that there are already some existing residents that are probably as close to this setback as we're asking.
I did see, I didn't have a measuring tape, but I did see that. I agree with you there. I guess a question I would have is, the proposed addition is 20 by 16. And if you could tell me, would it make any difference at all about 20 by 14? I mean, they seem to not really have a big problem with 20 by 14. Would that 2 feet make a big difference?
Not in my estimation, within the quality and the living of the room. When I first discussed the space with Tim and Gloria, as they asked, I had recommended that we try to stay within modular dimensions, given the way that dimensional lumber and sheet goods work. That it would probably be the best use of dimensional lumber. So we are obviously capable of constructing at a 14-foot width. And there would obviously be a slight savings to Tim also as a result of that. But initially, I had when we discussed space for the use of the room, we had first discussed a size of 16 by 20.
Okay. And I guess you as the contractor, did you get a chance to review this at all from the engineer's office?
No, sir.
Just what I read? Would you like an opportunity to take a look at it? I mean, you don't have to, but it's basically what I read to you.
Understood. That would be fine. Thank you.
Would you be in approval of that? I mean, I'm not against it. If they would go with 16, I'd much rather have that. But.
No, I understand. I guess I'm not an authority enough to disagree with the city engineer. We would first like to ask for a consideration for 16 by 20, and if that is not approved or not considered at that time, we would go to reducing the width to 14 by 20.
Okay. And I think you did hand in the picture of what it would look like, correct?
Yes, sir. We've
Right.
presented you with renderings that
Right.
share the existing layout of the home, as well as elevations of the front, sides, and rear.
No, it's a very thorough package. I think the concern is really just the closeness to the sidewalk and what may go on there. But I think you've given us everything that we'd ask for, so it's just a matter of what the board is interested in doing. So, is there anything else you'd like to say?
If I could say one thing?
Go ahead.
I did include affidavits from all of my immediate neighbors. And
I did see that. That is very helpful when you
it
do
does say
that.
20 by 16, and I actually took some neighbors out and with the tape measure, brought them out and asked them if they would have a problem. I actually walked across the snow to build a line.
Okay, and that will become part of the official record, these affidavits, or I guess they're really not affidavits, but just signatures from your direct abutters.
Correct.
We appreciate that. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say, sir?
Not really.
Mr. Boucher, anything?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, and you can, if we have questions, I'm sure, you'd be available to answer them.
Thank you.
Okay, is anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Does anybody here wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in opposition of this petition? Seeing no opposition, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and I'll open up to the board for consideration. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to reiterate what you had just mentioned. I really appreciate the package you did put together for us. I wish each applicant came in as prepared as you people did. I guess the only comment I'd make, Mr. Chairman, I guess, Mr. Commissioner, the sidewalk, proposed sidewalk that might go in there someday, how would that work now if we grant something and then all of a sudden the city decides they want to throw a sidewalk in there? And first of all, if they put a sidewalk in, what would the dimensions be? Is there a standard dimensional feature? And then second of all, how close could a structure come to the sidewalk?
Two comments. First comment is I defer to the same comment that the builder did, that I don't feel qualified to answer that from the engineering standpoint, the engineering's office. But I would say that while there are some other structures on the street, and I believe they're porches, if they decide to build a sidewalk, the removal of a porch or a section and have it rebuilt to accommodate a sidewalk is a lot easier than asking folks like this to tear down a part of physical living space, which could be a real problem, which is what I'm thinking. This is the way they're probably thinking on that. But as far as dimensions go and everything else, not knowing what the long-term plans are for that street, I would defer maybe a further explanation from the engineering office if you so desire. But I don't feel qualified to answer those engineering and those specific questions.
So, Mr. Chairman, how do we...
Well, I would, I think that we have the information from the engineer's office, and I wouldn't want to put the petitioners in a position of approving this and having the city have every right to order them to take down a portion of, which looks like it'll be the 2 feet, of the proposed addition, and then we didn't do you any service at all. We did you a disservice, and, it may never come to that. The way it was worded, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, that tells me that it's probably not going to happen, but it could, and we don't know that for sure. So I think, I just think if we approve that close, we put the petitioners in a pretty precarious situation regarding a finished product that may need to be removed or adjusted at a later date, which I think would be very, very expensive to do and a huge inconvenience. That's just my opinion. Do you have any comments on that, Mr. Boucher? How that might, if they were ordered to take a portion of it down, would that be a significant?
I believe it would cause a hardship, yes.
Right. But what I'm saying is if the city has every legal right to put a sidewalk there, and they have a right to order anybody who's encroaching on that area where the sidewalk would go, and because that's part of the CSO plan, the city may have, be holding the trump card as to be the one in the position to order the structure, as Mr. Camacho said, to come down. That would put your clients in a spot where they have to reduce the size of something from 16 to 14, and who knows what's inside there that's going to be affected. But my
Yeah,
guess is they wouldn't be interested in.
I gather my question may be at this time, if one were to assume that a sidewalk was constructed and this structure is 1.5 feet from that setback, are the sidewalks designed within the setback, or are they still on city property?
Well, that's, I have a hunch, but I'm not sure what the answer is, so I don't want to say. I think what we could also do is defer this for 2 weeks and get a further explanation, as Mr. Camacho said, from the engineers department, unless there's, somebody you want to propose to amend it to a 20 by 14.
Excuse me?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
if I may...
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, upon discussion, The owners are agreeing to reduce the width of this structure from 16 feet to 14 feet to avert any of potential future consequences with a sidewalk.
Okay, and I think Mr. Kavanaugh had something.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my at least observations from past sidewalk work in the city is that the city will often have to go somewhat onto the property owner's land just as part of the construction process. I think that may be what the concern is. And then they come back and try, repair and fix up the land. So I think that's the concern.
Okay, I
think the agreement to reduce it to 14 feet, I think that probably makes sense all around. It probably, I know it's not exactly what they wanted, but it's certainly a sizable addition. So maybe that answers a lot of questions for me anyway. I don't know if that's the board members, but that would certainly answer a lot of my questions and put me at ease as far as supporting the petition. So would we give, Jack, do you have anything?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, first and foremost, again, the package, as was already alluded, is very thorough. I wish every petitioner went to these efforts, and certainly the developer also needs to be commended as well. Conceding the 2 feet, the way I interpret this is, I think, prudent on your behalf. How do you interpret the realm of possibility? Don't know. Beyond my comprehension. But certainly what they've indicated is that specifically, if they decide, they would accept, and it would be within the limits by going to 20 by 14. That all being said, I think it's prudent on your behalf and a smart decision to go with the 14, live with the 2 feet, and not worry about any problems down the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Mr. Boucher, do you have the handout I gave you for the, that's my only copy.
Yes, sir.
If
You
could
wish
just,
to have it back?
sure, if you had ample time to read it. Thanks, Bob. Okay, Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in support of this petition, especially with the amendment of the structure from 20 by 16 to 20 by 14, which is a wiser choice on your part. So I'm in support of this petition, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes,
Corey.
Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement with my colleagues. I was at the property today, and it's probably one of the smaller homes on the street, if not the smallest, so I do understand the desire to expand the home, and with no one here in opposition tonight, I certainly am in support of the petition. But I would not have been in the event of a 20 by 16, but with the amended dimensions now, I would like to go forward this evening at 20 by 14.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just echo the sentiments of the board. It's a very thorough package and well thought out. And I would also be in support of a reduced size to the 14-foot width. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And Rick?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. So I guess if the board is willing, we could make that a condition that it be reduced from 20 by 16 to 20 by 14, because he'll have to, if it's approved, he'll have to sign the package, and it says 20 by 16. So we just want to make that clear that if we do approve it, that's a condition that's acceptable to the applicant.
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve with the following condition, that the dimensions of the addition be reduced to 20 by 14.
Seconded.
Okay, Stephanie, roll call, please.
Approved with conditions.
Approve with conditions?
Approve with the condition that it be reduced by 20 by 16 to 20 by 14.
Approved with conditions.
Approve with condition.
Okay, so you've been approved unanimously with the condition that it be reduced by 20 by 16 to 20 by 14. What I would ask is that the applicant or representative of the applicant come up and sign this package and hand it to Stephanie, and please walk behind Mr. Camacho so you don't trip over the wires. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher.
Thank you.
Okay, the next petition on the agenda is ZB 2009, number 4. This is a special permit for Azad Maroon by attorney Kevin J. Murphy. The property address is 1774, 1776 Middlesex Street. This is a petition for an outdoor sale of used vehicles according to section 12.6B of the zoning ordinance. Attorney Murphy, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Kevin Murphy. I represent Assad Maroon, who owns property at 1774 to 1776 Middlesex Street in the Highland section of Lowell. I'm not sure if the members of the board are cognizant of the business that my client operates from those premises, but it's the Midway Car Center. What he does is he sells and installs electronic devices for automobiles. For example, you need a Garmin system, he'll sell you that or install it. When your kids are crying on their way to the beach and want a video on the disc in the van, he'll sell you that video system and install it. And for my wife this past Christmas, I bought her a remote starter for her automobile, which he'll sell and install. The problem is that in this current technology, economy, and whatever, is many of the cars that are coming for sale for new already come with these devices installed them. They're factory-installed devices. So he's actually missing out on a lot of business because of the fact that they're already factory installed. But there is a large segment of automobiles in our society that don't come with those types of devices. So my client, who is trying to expand his business in an ever-declining economy, what he would like to do is to buy some used cars, not old cars, they would be relatively newer cars that do not have these electronic devices in them. What he would do is he would purchase these cars. He has the facilities already to take these cars inside, to install these devices in them, and then to market them for sale at his existing location. This is an RR zoning. We are going to have to get a license from the License Commission to operate this type of business. But before we even go to the License Commission, we under the zoning code, we need a special permit from your board in order to even operate this type of business. I think if you know the area, is that it is not dissimilar to many businesses along Middlesex Street. And we're not talking about a large used car dealership. I mean, I drove by Charisma today. We're not talking about that many cars. We're probably talking about a half a dozen cars that he will be marketing for sale at any point in time, because he still has his other business that will be going on during this period. It's actually a great opportunity to do some aesthetic improvements, and we have our engineer here this evening, Jerry Foley, who has designed improvements to the property, especially landscaping, which is going to help out with the area. Now, I just want to make it abundantly clear, it's under the existing zoning requirements. We have all of the parking requirements for the existing use of the business and for proposed 6 used cars to be sold on the premises. So what we're asking this evening is for you to grant a special permit to Assad Maroon so that he could operate, or at least petition the License Commission to operate this type of business in conjunction with his existing business. Mr. Foley, could you come up for a moment and just explain to the board the improvements that we're going to be making?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as Kevin said, if you've been by the site recently, you probably didn't see anything because of this wonderful winter we're having. But on a clearer day, you'd note, if you looked at the sketch on the right, which is the existing conditions plan, you can see that the condition of the curb out in that neighborhood meanders over the property line back and forth. So we decided that this was a good opportunity to clean that situation up. So what we've done is we pulled the edge of pavement back to comply with the offset requirements for pavement in that zoning district, so that we're off the property lines. We provide a green strip between the edge of the pavement and the back of the sidewalk, or where a new sidewalk would be. We also eliminated a curb cut, or proposed to eliminate a curb cut over here. Right now, there's two curb cuts off Middlesex Street, and this isn't that far from the intersection with Wood Street. And take advantage of one of the curb cuts that was recently put in by the city. Although it's slightly offset, it still works. The other thing we were able to do is we were able to move the location of the dumpster from the corner to a more accessible location here, and we're able to narrow down the curb cut on Columbia. If you look at the drawing on the right, you can see that it's wider than what we're proposing. So it gives us an opportunity to neaten up the parking lot, make sure that, restripe the whole thing, make sure that all the parking spaces comply with the minimum size requirements. And we still have two areas out front here, which the pavement already exists, we'd just be cleaning those up.
Okay. Oh, it looks, going by it now and looking at the proposal, I could see the green, which I assume is going to be the landscaping. Makes it, definitely is going to be an improvement to the city and to that direct neighborhood. You don't see a lot of that in that area, so I'm very pleased to see that. And I think it's a business that it's an allowed use. You're just looking for the permit to do it, and whether or not you get ultimate approvals from the license board is okay. All right. I think that we have something from the engineers department. I had that in front of me a second ago.
They're, Mr. Chairman, they're reading that information now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. There was in the planning board. Did you? What is the Kevin, the green space, is that going to be arborvitaes or anything, or is that Mr. Foley? It's his job.
Yeah, it's his job. I can't even spell arborvitae. What are they going to be?
We didn't determine anything at this point. As you can see, one of the issues that we have, and if you go out there today, you'll see it, is snow storage.
Yep.
Is a tough commodity out in this neck of the woods. So certainly it wouldn't help anybody to put a row of arborvitae up there that's going to last one growing season and then be gone as soon as the plow comes by. So I think we'd probably be in favor of a low shrub, if anything, or maybe even some ground cover, or just lawn.
Okay. And there was a comment that, I don't have it in front of me, but there was a comment from the engineer's office about, I think it was regarding the curb cut.
Yes, I was just reading that now for the first time. I'll read it out loud. It says, existing curb cut cannot be just abandoned. It must be replaced. All sidewalk along the project must be restored by the applicant, which we understand. Curb returns to be installed at driveway, which we're doing. Mass highway curb cut permit will be required. So any modifications to the curb cut, they're saying, will require a curb cut from Mass Highway.
Right.
As far as, we understand that with respect to closing up the existing curb cut, it just doesn't make sense to have two of them there.
Right, and I know the curb is not in great condition there, so obviously if you're going to do this, you'd change that. You'd
That's
repair that.
correct, yep.
Okay. All right, anything else, Kevin?
Nope.
Anybody here wishes to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Anybody wish to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? This petition in opposition? Welcome, sir. Please step up to the podium. Sir, when you're ready, please just sign your name. There's a thing to sign your name and your address.
Sign the name.
And then you could please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is George Garras. Good
How
evening.
do you spell your last name, sir?
G-A-R-A-S.
Yep. And what's your address, sir?
My address is 33 Sedalia Drive. That's on Pawtuckaville.
Yep.
Across it. So I'm here to represent my mother, who is 93 years old, and she lives across, opposite on Columbia Street. Okay, and our concern is that if they're gonna put cars to sell in that area, you might get, and because Columbia Street is a very narrow road, and cars are gonna be coming, parking on Columbia Street and all that, and who knows later on, they will probably bring in more cars to sell instead of the 5 that they said. And it's a big concern to us because that street, Columbia Street, is very narrow, and it also connects to Middlesex Street.
So your concern is that if this is allowed, the additional business it may generate could clog up part of the street where your mother lives?
Yes,
Does your mother drive, sir?
yes.
She drives? No, does your mother drive a car, I meant?
No, she doesn't,
No.
drive.
So
She
do
doesn't
you-
drive a car.
Do you live with your mother?
No.
Okay, so she lives there alone?
Yeah, she lives there alone.
Okay. And your concern is that there might be a safety issue, is that
It
what
might
you're
be
saying?
seen, and there's all kind of cars can be turning around in her driveway, which is just the opposite. Plus, it's the apartment houses right next to the corner of Middlesex and Columbia. And I think before you make a decision, you'll have to take a look at the area. And I'm very concerned, the way the street is and the way it's in the corner of Middlesex Street.
Right. I think every member here, we usually do go by, and I know I did, we go by the property and do a site visit before the meeting, before tonight's meeting, so I'm pretty confident that everybody...
We're not objecting to to have a business there or anything like that, but we are concerned with Columbia Street.
Okay, has this
Because
business...
people that are gonna come to buy cars and all that, they could be parking on Columbia Street, and it's very narrow road, and I have a problem right now, going to my mother's because of the snowbanks and all that.
Yeah, no, it's a tight street. Has this business affected your residence, your mother's residence in the past, that you know of?
Well, yes, I can mention the other property next to it.
I'm Mrs. Garris.
Ma'am, we have to do that, because they're watching at
I
home, if you,
understand.
only one at a time, if you could address the board and state your name, write your name, and
Catherine Garris, 33 Sedalia Drive.
you could pull the microphone down, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Catherine Garris, 33 Sedalia Drive. I am his wife.
Yeah.
This is my mother-in-law we're talking about, and she lives on Columbia Street. She's 93 years old. My sister-in-law lives right next door, and it's a very residential area. Now, we are not objecting to any of this, and I haven't even seen the plans, but it's a congested area. There's too many cars. You know the Middlesex Street is very congested. Now, they're planning another business there next to Mr. Assad here. So what's going to happen this Columbia Street? This is a residential street. My mother-in-law is 93 years old. She's all alone. She lives by herself. She's able to take care of herself, 93 years old. Now, there are still cars turning around in her driveway. So what's going to happen when these cars, they talked about 6 cars. What if they put more?
Well, I think if I heard the petitioner, and I'll let the petitioner...
No, I understand what the petitioner said. I know Mr. Murphy here. I know your wife. We taught together. I taught at the city of Lowell anyway. I don't understand.
Well, I think what first of all, it's already an existing business.
Well, I understand that. We understand, and it's wonderful. It has not affected my mother-in-law at all.
That was my question. Has it
not affected her
so there's
now.
no history of...
But it's getting worse and worse with everything all the businesses that are going on.
Right, but we have to, as a board, we have to look at every petition as a case-by-case basis. So if there's if you have some evidence or some concerns about how Mr. Maroon's business has affected your mother-in-law...
Not the business that he has now.
Right. But your concern is
there
about...
are a lot of cars, sir. There are a lot of cars.
Right, and that's Middlesex Street is a main thoroughfare.
And she's inside. She doesn't go out.
Right.
And she does see a lot of cars turning in her driveway.
So her concern is cars turning in her driveway?
Well, yes, and then the noise and all, that might,
Now, where would her house be in relation to this business?
The corner, right there. You have the apartments, and there's her house right there. On the corner.
Is her house located in a...
It's right there.
Is her house located in a mixed-use district? Is it residential
It's a residential, yes. It's residential. And now all these businesses, they are trying to corner of Middlesex. They're making more businesses there, building more stores.
Bob, would you know offhand if that would be that part of Columbia Street, is that a business district, mixed use?
I don't have that information in front
Yeah,
of me.
I don't either, okay.
Mr. Assad, yes, it's business, and then it's the corner, one of the houses, but it's residential.
Right, but his business is clearly located on a business district.
Absolutely, that's fine. But
Okay.
our objection is, even though he's going to be 6 cars, I understand what Mr. Murphy said, that all these new cars come in with all these gadgets, but what's going to happen? Could he, if he gets the permit, he might put more? People might be coming and parking on Columbia Street and going to see these cars.
Okay.
And a lot of times we visit my mother-in-law every day, and there's my sister-in-law right there, and you can hear the music and all that. Thank God my mother-in-law has a little hearing, but she does hear well.
Okay. Well, let me ask
So-
Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy,
Sorry.
I guess you understand the concern that she has, so I guess my question would be, and the board may have their own, but my question would be that he's proposing 6 cars. I guess maybe an explanation after you heard what their objection is, how that would maybe not affect their Columbia Street.
Well, it wouldn't affect Columbia Street because even with the 6 cars, we have more than enough parking to service the people that would come in to view those 6 cars under the zoning requirements. If you look at the plan, there's more parking there right now than the zoning bylaws require.
So you're not looking for parking variance? I don't know if the petition understood that.
No,
They
don't.
have, ma'am, sir, they have plenty of parking right on the site. They're not looking for any relief. It doesn't look like it's going to be at all congested there to us. So I understand your concern about,
We understand.
ma'am, if you-
Okay, I just asked one question.
Sure.
What is your mother's name and?
My mother-in-law is Persephone Garris,
And she lives at what address?
14 Columbia Street.
14. Do you know Mrs. Garris? No, I never met her before. Would you go over to her house and talk to her and allay her fears about?
My sister-in-law lives... My sister-in-law
Sure,
lives right
anybody-
on
any-
Columbia Street. Go ahead, Cooler.
we'll
you just-
follow process here, and we'll let Mr. Murphy finish, and then anybody else that wants
But
to.
I will represent to you that Mr. Maroon, who's been there and a very good businessman, will go over to Mrs. Garris's house and help her out in any way that she needs relative
Right.
to
Given
parking
her
and
age
any-
and she lives alone, the only thing I'd suggest as a practical matter is just go through one of the, so you don't alarm her by, knocking on a door of somebody, maybe if you live there, ma'am, and you can, okay, if you could just, after she speaks, and then we can only do it from the podium, otherwise,
My name is Kula Ryan. I live on 20 Columbia Street, and there's 2 entrances in that corner. One of them is on Columbia Street, and we get a lot of traffic coming in and out of that place already. And I don't know if you're aware of the businesses going in there, 5 more stores and a parking lot right next to them. A big we're appealing that, and they're supposed to put a fence for the parking lot. There's a big parking lot going right next to them and a big 5-store business on the other side of them. So I don't know how much more business we can put in the corner. That's already been proven that it's the 3rd worst corner in Massachusetts, and you keep on putting more and more businesses in that corner.
okay, I understand.
Well, you have to go over and check the area again. If they're going to do that, they're going to have to close the entrance on Columbia Street. There's too much traffic going in and out to the business from Columbia Street, and a lot of cars parking in front on Columbia Street, and a lot of times they park in my mother's house because there's not enough place there. There's not enough room there for all the business they're talking about.
Have you seen yourself cars from Mr. Maroon's
There's already,
business?
there were cars every day there. Every day I look there, there's about 8, 10 cars already in their parking lot. How are they going to put so many cars?
Well, I guess what I'm asking you, have you seen an overflow from
Yes.
Mr. Maroon's business parking on?
Yes, and they do park on Columbia Street, on and off.
Okay.
Not every day, but especially on weekends, if they have a special, they double park on Columbia Street. The Columbia Street, they should make the Columbia Street one-way, traffic going on Middle. You can't
Right.
go out on Middlesex
I'm not talking
Street.
about the other businesses, though, because we're here talking about Mr. Maroon, out of fairness, we're here
Well, I
talking
think you
about...
should put it in consideration. There's going to be 5 more businesses going in that corner.
That's irrelevant to what we're discussing tonight, ma'am, in
Well-
all due respect. We're just we have to take it on a case-by-case.
Okay,
and-
you have to go out and check the area again before you make a decision.
Is there anything you'd like to say, sir? Mr. Maroon?
I just would like to say that I've been in that area for 18 and a half years. I treated all my neighbors fairly. My parking lot is open. They come bring their cars. They park their cars when they're shoveling the snow across the street at the apartments and everything. As they're concerned about the extra cars, I abided the law for 18 and a half years. I don't think I'm going to break the law today. You know, she doesn't have to worry about that. Also, we're asking for 6, but when we don't, you know, we have a place to store these extra 4 cars. All we're trying to do is display the 2 cars up front. That's it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Murphy, anything you'd like to say?
No, that's, I just, as Mr. Maroon said, and I will represent to this board, that you will communicate with this neighbor to make sure that you can allay her fears relative to any parking or anything that happens there.
Right, I think a condition that the board might consider is that if Mr. Maroon becomes aware or is notified in writing of anybody from his business parking on Columbia Street, that he immediately rectifies that situation. No problem with that.
That's very fair.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say, sir or ma'am?
Oh, do you want to say? No.
You both can speak. Just take your time, and whoever wants to go first. Give you all the time you
We
want.
understand regarding that, but is it, let's say, etched in stone that he will only have 6 cars and he will be policing if nobody else will be parking on Columbia Street and all of that? I mean,
Well,
how do
it'll
we
be
know
etched in
that?
stone as far as this board putting a condition on that his vehicles, and that could be another condition, that his vehicles do not, the people coming to his business do not park on Columbia Street. And I don't think they have to, because I think he does have ample parking.
Well,
And
no,
that if
he
it,
does, there's a parking, I understand that,
right,
but
and that if
again,
somebody does, that he will,
he said 6 cars, would he be able to put more cars?
no, the limit is 6.
What happens if there are
He
more
would,
cars?
he would not be able to without coming before this board again. It would be approved for 6.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Well,
make
I
a
don't
point.
know about that.
I'd like to make a point that, hypothetically speaking, if this board does approve his project, he still will need license commission approval. And they will put a number, even if we say 6, again, hypothetically, they could cut it down to 4.
Yes, we are speaking
And he will
hypothetically
be,
here.
and he would be restricted to that. So I do want to make that point.
But, you know, you have to, like my sister-in-law said, you have to consider the residents also there.
We certainly do, ma'am. We
You
do,
know,
we
I
consider
mean, this
everything.
is-
We do. We consider the rights of the applicant as opposed to the rights of
You
the
know,
neighbors
here
there.
you have, my mother-in-law is 93 years old, and I mean, does she need to hear all this, and, you know, at that age? And there's my sister-in-law, she lives alone.
Ma'am, I understand, but Columbia
You
Street,
know, I mean, it is, it's a street, it's a residential street. Would you like to have all these businesses in your own street? I mean, I wouldn't on my street.
how long has she lived on Columbia Street? Right, so,
And it was never like this. It's really, there's business going everywhere. And with the economy the way it is, I know, I understand that you want to make some more money, I understand that, but at the expense of the residents now? This is what this is what we are objecting. I'm not, you know, we're not objecting of anybody improving, making business or doing that. We're just thinking of the residents and thinking of the people that are living there.
okay, ma'am, thank you for your comments. Is there anything else
Thank
you'd like
you
to
so
say?
much,
Okay.
anyway.
Sir, anything you'd like to say?
Make another comment. I'm Judge Garris again.
Yeah.
And my biggest concern is for the planning board for the zoning board, is to take a hard look at the area before you make a decision, because it's going to be a disaster if they ever approve that. That's my
If they
biggest
ever
concern.
approve what?
If they approve to
This.
put cars there, yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor or opposition before we close the public hearing? And hearing none, the public hearing is closed, and we'll open up to the board for deliberation. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think a couple of things. First of all, the applicant has a track record of a traditional small businessman. He's been there close to 20 years. Obviously, he's made a determination that he needs to try to keep his sales base as best as possible. And I just have just one question. I think the attorney mentioned it, but the 6 vehicles, are there going to be 2 vehicles located in the front of the building, if I understood?
Yes, 2 displayed, but the rest will be in the rear of the parking lot.
Are the vehicles going to be a special type of vehicle, or is it, if you could just maybe expand on that, please?
Sure. Well, actually, we're looking for something medium, not cheap vehicles that we can bring in because we lost a lot of income in the past couple of years. The industry changed, you know, Circuit City closed, everybody isn't. We're trying to see what else can we do to improve our work and coordinate it with the car sales. What we're looking to do is bring the cars and fit them nicely. So somebody who is 20, 24, 5 years old can afford an $8,000 car or $10,000 car with everything in it that looks nice and it's ready. He doesn't need to take it to another place to fit it. So that's the type of used vehicles we want to sell. We want to sell our products inside the cars. So those cars are going to be well looked at, well maintained. It will be a nice looking display on the front.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, the businessman obviously is trying to create his own niche out there in the marketplace. I also like the idea of the greenery. I think that'll spruce it up on that corner too. Not that there's nothing wrong with your area right now, but I think the combination of the cars and the greenery will be an improvement there, and I plan on supporting this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Jack?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. One of the unfortunate parts of what this board does, and I guess a great many boards, and this is a classic example, I think, where there may be existing conditions in a neighborhood that have nothing to do with the petitioner. The opposition to petition is correct. It's a narrow road. Mr. Bailey and I were talking off mic about the traffic that cuts through there from Princeton to Middlesex. And that does add to the congestion, but unfortunately, that has nothing to do with what this board's duty is today. We certainly empathize with the opposition to the petition, but Mr. Bailey alluded to the simple facts that exist. Number one, and most importantly, the number of years the business has been in existence. He's been a good neighbor. What he's trying to do is to find a way to get through a tough economy. I guess this would be kind of a neat way for him to market his products. He installs the products he's traditionally been trying to sell in a vehicle. That vehicle's driven off lot. The young man takes the car to his neighborhood. They say, wow, this is great. Where did you get this hooked up? They say your business. They bring their vehicle back there. So it's like a driving billboard for the businessman. I think it's a great idea. I think the fact that there are only going to be 2 vehicles out front and the other 4 can be stored, I think also complements the petition. The fact that there's ample parking, the fact that there are going to be improvements and greenery, all, I think, bode well for this petition, and I would certainly wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Vesda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Mr. Knott with regard to the concerns that the abutter has about people cutting to Columbus Avenue or Columbus Street. The problem exists even before this petitioner come before us. We can't, impose this on the petitioners because somebody cut to avoid traffic on Middlesex Street. It will happen. It will continue to happen as long as we have car on the street of the city of Lowell, not just on Columbus, but on other streets as well. I see the improvement to the property with regard to the greenery and the cleanup of the site. Also, I see the parking is ample of parking, as the attorney indicated that this is a use. They just come before us, the right use, and they come before us to get the special permit. And I heard the abutter concern, Mr. Chairman, also with regard to suppose they come for 6 cars and they put 10 or 12 cars. Well, if this board set just a condition of 6 car and the license agreed to it, then if the petitioners were to do more than 6, then you can pick up the phone, call the building commission and said, look, they have more than 6 car. Now do something about it. You can do that. The other things that I hear, which is of a great help, is that the petitioners are willing to, and I would urge the petitioner to give the cell phone or your personal phone to Ms. Garris in the event that somebody parked right on her property, that she can call you and say, hey, check with your customer whether or not one of your customers parked in front of my car. Move that car. That'd be great things, you see. And in this day of dining economy, and to have Mr. Maroon want to expand his business to help instead of move out the city of Lowell, this is an excellent idea. So I too in support of this, with a few of those conditions, though. Thank you.
Thanks, Vesna. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I am in agreement with my colleagues. I did spend some time out there this afternoon. I went in the business, I walked around it, and I was impressed to see that Mr. Maroon, I mean, not only does he work there, he lives there right upstairs. So he's proven to me from his past record that he cares, and he will address any concerns in the past and in the future. Now, I also come to the realization that he has an abundance of parking considering the nature of his business today. I was there 12:30, 1 o'clock today, although it is a Monday. There was myself, 1 or 2 other cars. I'm sure it gets more than that at times. But I'm finding that he has an abundance. He has the room for what he's looking to do. As a businessman and a property owner, he has the right to utilize his property to the fullest. Again, not to the expense of the neighborhood, and I don't believe this is. The additions he's making, aesthetically, it's going to be more pleasing. I support this petition wholeheartedly, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. And Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, some questions for the applicant. We've heard requests for 6 parking spaces. What's the plan for storage beyond the 2 display vehicles here? What storage do you have internal to the building? Is that what you're proposing?
Basically, this is his building where,
Right.
and aside, you can explain that you actually have spaces in here where you work on the cars inside the building?
We have 3 bays that we can put 3 cars inside. 1, 2, the residents that live there, they move in the morning to go to work. It's empty. Plus, I proposed one more thing. I just bought another property that has garages in it. I can park them in there ready to bring them to you, to fix them and get them ready, and then put them in the 2 parking spaces. I promise it will not be congested. I will never break the law or put more cars in there. I'll give my cell phone to the neighbors, anybody who wants it. I always work with my neighbors. I never had any problems with my neighbors for the past 20 years. Whatever you decide you want, if you have any more questions.
Okay.
And there's parking. This is where the repairs will be made, right. And as you can see, there's parking back here. These would be the 2 displays out front.
Yep. Okay, so 3 internal bays where you do the work, and was
Right.
the plan, the proposed spaces are 16, and there's 12 required for this use. So you're basically showing 4, so I'm assuming that you were using some internal storage for these vehicles. Is that,
Yes.
That's correct.
We weren't counting the ones out in front existing, because they're not legal, they're not designed specifically to the zoning bylaws, so under existing conditions, we're not even counting the space out front.
These 2 are,
Right.
That's part of the request.
yeah.
But with your request, those 2 make 16?
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear. What are the hours of operation that you have today?
It's 9 to 6.
9 to 6. And with the used cars, first of all, let me say I think it's an innovative business use. I commend you for your thoughts here, and adapting your business to the time, so I think that's great. I just want to understand safety and other concerns and how to balance that. With used cars, are you planning to do any body work or other repair work to these vehicles? So this would be solely installing of electronics in the business that you're in today?
The repairs that we might do would be electronics, like I said.
Right,
Add a navigation, add a radio, stuff like that. But body work, no.
You wouldn't be painting or
No.
hammering or making additional noise or other things?
Nope.
Okay.
And it will be the same type of, the same time for the business.
Same time, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And I charge for my Sundays.
Now, one of my concerns would be because you have residents upstairs, now I heard testimony that you actually live there, I'd be concerned for, impact on residents with additional work and things. But
One of them works for me.
okay. Okay.
Self-accommodated.
I guess the snow storage was a question or issue as well, which to some extent negates the ability to do much with the green space, beyond some basic work, but it's commendable that you're looking to do that. So, I think this is a challenging area in general, because of the congestion. Columbia Street's a narrow street, it abuts, you're abutting a residential area, so that's always a challenge here. But I think the plan overall seems to be accommodating. I think the real challenge is in the execution and the operation, and the fact that you've been in the city for a long time and have run a reputable business, it speaks well to how you will continue. And your willingness to work with the neighborhood, I think, is very important to respond to concerns, certainly not having extra cars on the street and those types of things. But, so no further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Rick?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Murphy, looking at the engineer's memo, your client's going to have to restore that piece of sidewalk that you're going to close off, correct? He's going to have to
Absolutely.
pay for all the work and stuff?
Yes.
Well, that, no cost to the city, right? Or the
Correct.
state?
Correct.
All right. And you're going to use those two front areas, those display areas for 2 cars?
2 cars.
2 cars?
Yes.
And you're going to keep all the other cars inside, so we don't have a problem out there?
Well, either inside or in the back of the area here.
Correct, so there's no, during the hours that you need parking, it's not gonna cause a problem? And you also said you bought a new piece of property?
He bought a piece of property on Middlesex Road in Tingsboro, a commercial piece of property where he's going to be able to store vehicles or repair them out there also. And that way it won't clutter this property. He can just move them down when they're done.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's imagine he has Middlesex Street in Lowell and Middlesex Road in
Street,
Tingsboro.
Okay. Those are my concerns, that we didn't incur any costs for closing off any of that area over there. And hopefully he can get along with the neighbors over there. I mean,
Well, he has,
it's
I mean,
congested.
it is a tight area, and he does do a good job with the neighbors, and he'll continue, and I represent to the board that he'll continue to do that.
Okay. So there's only...
Everybody that I talk to up there likes Hassad and talks about what a great job he does.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, is there any way we could allow him to put out 2 cars only for a while, see how it works? And then if it works out all right, we could allow him to put out the additional cars. I know you're saying 6, and obviously the License Commission is the one that gives out the license, but I know we have a problem further down on Middlesex Street that certain things went on. We end up with 100-something cars out there that Mr. Camacho is dealing with right now. I was just wondering, see if we can make it work 6 months, 8 months, and then see how he's doing, and maybe he won't need the extra space, maybe he will need the extra space, and we could work with him.
Well, I think if it's limited to 6, which was the representation, then you were going to try on, was he going to try on his own anywhere from 2 to 6 to figure out what works? Because I think the licensing board is going to have some impact on that. But my question is, Rick, how would that alleviate any of the congestion on Middlesex Street or anything related to Columbia Street?
Well, I don't think it wouldn't, but just to show a good faith to say, I'll try this, and if it works, I can do it. I'm going to show I can do it. I'm going to show that the neighbors are happy with me. I've been down there before. I think everybody's been down Columbia Street. It's a narrow street.
Right.
You can't do anything about it. I mean, everybody crosses over from Princeton Boulevard trying to get over, and it's...
I do it myself.
Yeah, I agree. We've all done it. That's
Yeah.
probably why we're all familiar with Columbia
Yeah.
Street. And we appreciate your comments, and we really do consider them. We understand the position you're in. It's just because your mother lives on Columbia Street is why you're here. And, I don't know that I wouldn't be here if I were you either, in the same situation. But my feeling is that this particular business, which is the petition in front of us right now, it doesn't really contribute to that problem on Columbia Street that I've seen. I know that it's a cut-through when the traffic's heavy. People go down that way just to try to skirt around the traffic, but I don't think that that's really anything that Mr. Maroon has caused or contributed to. Ma'am, the public hearing, the public hearing is closed. That's just how it works, and we have to stick with the rules. If you want later, I'll let you comment, but I'm just going to finish. So the petitioner, in my opinion, has demonstrated that he's met the criteria for a special permit. And I think the representations that he's made and the fact that there's no opposition here, aside from the folks that are here on behalf of their mother and mother-in-law, shows that he probably is a good neighbor and hasn't affected anybody else over there. And I'm not so sure that I've seen anything where he actually affects that house where your mother or mother-in-law lives. I don't doubt what you're saying at all. I believe every word of what you're saying. But I don't think that it affects, I don't think Mr. Maroon is the cause of that. And again, when I look at the criteria for what we have to look at, whether or not we approve a special permit, is it a detraction from the neighborhood? Does it cause any social negative impact? Does it cause any extra traffic? Does it cause any extra congestion? Does it cause any negative impact to the environment? And then we have to look at the positives of this business as well. And I think when you weigh all that, at least in my opinion, that he clearly meets the criteria for a special permit. And if there was a way I could solve, or this board could solve your problems on Columbia Street, we would do that. But I don't think that this board can do that right now. I think the sad fact is that Columbia Street, especially that end of it, happens to be so close to such a main thoroughfare in the city that that's just a fact of where she's decided to live many years ago, and I'm sure she's, somewhat used to what goes on there, although she may not be happy with it. And I empathize with your situation, and I wish, there's something we could do to make a change, but we can't really penalize the petitioner for something that's not within his control. So my feeling is that I would vote to support this project. Does anybody else have any comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask the petitioner, I don't think we want to make this a condition, but you are in the car audio business, and I think it as a compliment to the neighborhood, if you would, on the Columbia Street side exit, if you would install some signage saying, please turn down radio. I mean, I'm sure that's their first gesture. They got a new radio installed, and they want to hear it, and it's understandable. But as a courtesy to the neighborhood, if you can install some signage, maybe leaving, especially on Columbia Street, please turn down radio, we have neighbors, something along those lines, I think would really help.
I already did that twice, and twice when they removing the snow.
Something a little permanent.
But I will redo it, no problem.
Yeah, I think that would help the neighborhood. I like that.
Maybe if you just tell them that.
Or yeah.
Ma'am,
I'll find a way.
Okay. Ma'am, I saw you shaking your head. I told you I'd give, we don't usually do this, but we'll make an exception to let you speak. I think you had something to say. If you could come up and address it at the podium, please.
I just wanted to make a comment that a lot of the traffic that goes in and out is from Columbia Street to the place. It isn't from Middlesex. They come from Columbia into the place. They should just close Columbia Street altogether and then use just Middlesex Street. There's two entrances there. That's what's causing the problem.
There also
They can't get out on Middlesex Street, so they go in and out on Columbia Street all the time.
But that could also cause a safety risk as well if you close that off, ma'am. But we appreciate your comments. Okay. Any other comments from any of the board members? Okay. I don't know if did anybody have any conditions? I didn't really. I know there was some mention of conditions, but I don't know that there was actually any condition that we were going to make part of the record. Does anybody have any different understanding?
Not that I'm aware of,
Mr. Chairman, we would certainly, one of the conditions would be that the limit is 6 vehicles. I think Mr. Belanger's suggestion in the petition has graciously already alluded to the point that he would be willing to do it again. Apparently, he's done it once on his own as far as the signage is concerned. Those would be the two conditions that initially I think I recall.
Okay. All right, I need a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with that input from Mr. Knox, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following condition, that a special permit is granted with a maximum of 6 vehicles. Second, signage be installed exiting the Columbia Street side of the property stating, "Please turn down radio," for the sake of the neighborhood.
Okay, Stephanie, roll call, please.
Approve with conditions.
Approve with conditions?
Approve with conditions.
Approved with conditions.
Approve with condition.
Okay, sir, you've been unanimously approved with the conditions. If somebody, Mr. Murphy, if you could come up and just sign this and hand it to Stephanie, appreciate it. Anywhere on it and just date it, Kevin? Just watch out walking over there.
We finished, I think my battery's dead. You left it at your office. Nice job, Mr. Chairman. Nice job. Good suggestion. I meant at the very end, because I think my battery's dead. Mr. Belanger made the motion.
Okay, the final petition for tonight is 279 Central Street. This is a petition, a special permit, the applicant to Erin and Paul Yates, a petition to change the existing use of a boarding house to 12 residential units according to Article 12, Section 12.1, Section E of the zoning ordinance. The representative of the Backyard Collaborative, and it's, again, to change the existing use of a boarding house to 12 residential units. Before this petition begins, I filed a disclosure with the city manager, the city clerk, and the city solicitor's office. Mr. Kinsella?
Yes.
Did you receive this disclosure? No. Okay, if I'll read it to you. Dear Mr. Lynch, by way of disclosure, please be advised that my law firm is a direct abutter to the above-referenced petition on tonight's agenda. Additionally, I was the defense attorney representing a client in a civil matter involving the Backyard Collaborative and David Kinsella, who appear to be the architects in the above-referenced matter. I have no dealings with the petitioners, Erin and Paul Yates. I will further disclose this information at tonight's hearing prior to the petitioner presenting this request. Please post disclosure in this usual manner. So, just as chairman and as a member of this board, I'm just disclosing publicly that my law office is a direct abutter right behind the building in question, and that I have had past dealings with Mr. Kinsella, and because of that, I'm just disclosing it. I don't see a conflict of interest here, but out of fairness to you as the petitioners, I will let it be your decision whether or not you want me to recuse myself from this board. So you can take a moment to think about it, or you can tell me now, but please address it from the...
We're all set.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so would a representative from 278 Central Street please address the board? Mr. Kinsella.
My name is David Kinsella. I'm representing Paul and Erin Yates. I'm with the Backyard Collaborative. We're architects. We're located at 7 Bridge Street, Unit Number 9, Billerica, Mass. We're here to request a special permit from the board under Article 12, Section 12.1E. The existing building is located at 278 Central Street, which is the corner of Green and Central. There's a Dunkin' Donuts to the right of it, just to give you a frame of reference. The building is located in a DMU district. The district allows us to build the building property line to property line and a height of 4 stories. The Yates are asking the board to be able to convert the existing legal boarding house of 24 units to 12 rental units and maintain the present use of the restaurant, kitchen, and bar on the first floor. And if I could, I'd like to just run through what we what
Sure,
we'd
do
like
you have
to do.
it, do we have it, is there an easel? Did you bring one, or do we have one?
Paul is volunteering.
He's the easel?
As the
Okay.
easel. Paul, if you could, just so they can hear me on the recording. What we've done is, the first diagram you see here colored, brown are the existing units in their rooms with sinks and kitchens in various states of disrepair. The blue represents the 2 community bathrooms, and this floor that we're showing here is indicative of the upper 3 floors above the restaurant, kitchen, and bar.
How many residents live there now, David?
The building is vacant right at the moment. Mr. Yates evicted all of the tenants in anticipation of doing this project.
And prior to tonight, or prior to the evictions, no units had their own bathrooms. There was a common bathroom at the end?
Yes.
Was that a men's room and a woman's room? Was that? or
Yes.
just- okay.
They're pink and blue, so that's what our assumption is.
Okay.
There are sinks and like cabinetry within the units. The building has a history. It was derelict prior to my client acquiring the building, and we've acquired a demolition permit to remove the exterior of the building because we are in the jurisdiction of the federal and local historic districts. So we're in process with them in the design. The interior and the exterior is evolving. Historic happens to be meeting tonight, so we had a conflict between this board and their board. So I think it's kind of prudent to get the special permit prior to proceeding in any direction with historic, because it could change the design direction of the project. So I'm going to continue through. And
Yeah, but you don't need are you saying you don't need a variance, or you've determined that all you need is a special permit?
That's correct.
Is that your understanding, Mr. Camacho?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
I should also note that we approached the city about obtaining leasing for parking off-site at the new garage on Jackson Street, and I put a copy of the letter from T.J. McCarthy in the package for your review. We asked for a lot more spaces at the time of that letter, because at that time the Yates were considering asking for more units, and after consideration of over a year, they crunched the numbers, and based on our recommendation, have scaled it back to 12. So our assumption is we will notify T.J. McCarthy that the number of parking spaces required will meet the zoning. And
Okay, I'm looking at a letter dated October 7th that says, "You're writing to confirm that you have allocated 42 parking spaces in the Edward J. Early parking facility." This is signed by Chuck Carney. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm mixing up McCarthy and Carney.
Okay, so, but we're talking about the same parking garage. That's really all that I'm looking. So have you secured 42 parking spots there?
We have a commitment letter. We haven't secured them yet. We did this, in anticipation of doing the project.
Okay.
And coming before this board to
Right, I
ask for the
understand that.
special
So
permit.
if it's approved, you're confident that you have 42 reserved spots?
We don't need 42, we only need 12. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, I believe. If it's a 2-to-1, we're gonna go for 24.
Okay, I'm just
So-
reading the letter. So what would be the purpose of reserving 42?
At the time of the letter was requested, we were considering 21 units in the building.
Okay, so it's been downsized to 12 units?
Exactly.
So the
That was
most you'd
my-
need is 24 at the strictest interpretation?
Yes. That was our recommendation to the Yates, since they're not familiar with Lowell, that they scale it back a little bit. It was, the units were on the small side.
Okay. What would be the purpose of having it built to your architectural firm? Is that just, you put that down for now?
Yes, I'm representing them. I did the paperwork for Mr. Yates as part of my agreement with them.
Okay.
He will ultimately, sign the documentation and all of that. We wanted to show good faith to the board that we made an effort to get the parking spaces required.
Okay. Okay, continue.
Okay? So, in this plan, I've colored the restaurant, bar, and kitchen area, and in the rear are two new, one renovated space, which is indicated by the blue. Those will be men's and women's restrooms with handicap accessibility. In the gray area at the top is a new means of egress stair. At present, both stairs are in various shape, and the rear stair does not come down to grade. Historic had recommended that we place the stair at the rear of the building. The green square you see is to indicate a dumpster. We wanted to give consideration for that. We're thinking it's going to be a rollout dumpster, and it will be loaded overhead on the collection truck.
And do you have screening proposed for that?
Yes. We have not worked out the design details with Historic, but that is one of the items on their agenda. It'll be a
They're going to
fence.
maintain involvement in the historic board as to the exterior and everything related to...
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And when is your next meeting for the historic board?
The next is the 9th of March, but I've submitted revised designs based on what they had asked to do, and now they've asked us to, their federal and the local are considering whether to treat the rear of the building as a separate piece or an extension of the existing building due to the historic nature. And they haven't gotten back to me as to what direction I should go with this.
Okay.
So the yellow area is the bar and the seating area for the restaurant, and the red area is the existing kitchen, grill. I'm not sure what you want to call it, but I just wanted to give you a sense. It's on the ground floor. The plaza in the front's going to be modified on the right entry here in order to make the entrance accessible to all folks.
Okay, so where people gather outside in the warm weather, that's not going to be like that anymore, is that?
The plaza is not Mr. Yates's property, it's a city property, as far as we can tell from our survey we provided.
Really?
Yes. And there's several issues with this building. I'll bring them up if you don't mind, you indulge me. The first issue is that the front of the building is over the property line. The second issue is that the city's sidewalk is on the property, and it abuts the building. The third issue is the city and, the surveyor are saying, no one knows who is responsible for this plaza. And Mr. Yates has the present, legally existing use. They use the plaza for, seating and whatnot. And he's indicated that he wants to repair the fence. It's been damaged by, I guess, a car hit it or something. So we're going to do some more. Pardon?
The city owns that wrought iron fence?
Yeah.
Sure.
How you doing? I'm Paul Yates. I'm the owner of 278 Central Street, me and my wife, Erin Yates. I would like to state that the plaza is currently used by the Courtyard Pub, and we currently lease it to Chris Locapo. And they currently use it for, food and drinks. And what it was a car crashed into the wrought iron fence. So far, we've been speaking with Stephen Stoll at the Historical Committee, and he has all sorts of ideas and design pertaining to the courtyard. So that's where the question came up, who owns the courtyard? Because everyone, if you look at the front of the building, it looks like it's part of the portion of the building. So I currently retained a lawyer because I didn't know about the variance issues, and retained a lawyer to obviously in the future after this meeting follow up on the courtyard, the variance, and these issues that we're talking about, because we just found out about it after the
When you say variance, what are you referring to?
the encroachment that we have at the front of the building, which we just found out when we did the certified plot plan.
When, I don't know if you're aware, but...
Dave, you can...
Sure. This property was part of a bigger parcel that was subdivided by, I guess it went through the process with the city. It was a bank and then Dunkin' Donuts. And when they did that, that right side of the building was also over the property line, so they created a right-of-way down that side. But when the
It actually goes into the building, doesn't it?
yes, it does.
So how do you, if Dunkin' Donuts has a right-of-way inside the, I think it's, what is it, a few inches or a few feet?
It's not in the build, what they did is they took a piece of the lot of the Dunkin' Donuts, they designated it as a right-of-way, so the building is on the right-of-way.
Okay, all right, I understand.
So it's not encroaching, but no one dealt with the front, obviously, because that wasn't part of the original parcel of land. So so we just found it when we got our survey to come to this board that it was in fact forward of the property line by a few inches. So the Yates' interest is in trying to work out some kind of an arrangement with the city where they take ownership of the plaza and they give the city the piece of land that the city sidewalk is on in Green Street. You know, and that they would maintain the plaza and fix the fence and all of that, and that would solve the problem. Or they could go to the city attorneys and ask for a right-of-way similar to what was done when the larger parcel was subdivided several years ago.
Would it make sense to determine that stuff before, seeking any approvals, or is it something you think you can do simultaneously?
I don't think it's relevant, actually, to the, if he's asking for a change of use from a legal boarding house to rental units, and if he maintains his building, it still is a nonconformance with the zoning bylaw. The property line. So I don't see the advantage of getting that
Right, I
worked
guess you're
out
not
ahead of
selling
time.
these units, right? They're gonna maintain, they're not gonna be for sale, they're gonna be strictly rental?
Yeah, they're gonna be apartments.
Yeah, and he wants to leave his door open for the future, so he has an interest in, getting this problem straightened away, for sure.
Yeah. So, you're keeping the bar downstairs,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Same owners, same...
Yep.
Yep.
And so the units that you have now are gonna be some eliminated, but in any way, it's gonna be reduced to 12 from what they're...
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
and I
gonna
guess...
the plan is to gut the interior 2, 3, and 4.
So it's-
And rework the structure and make 4 units. They're approximately 350 square feet each. They vary, plus or minus 350 to 400, depending on the layout.
So those, if that's an enlargement, that's 400 square feet at the most, right?
Yes.
That's still very small. How big were the rooms that were there before?
Half the size.
Really?
Yes. He also is allowed to build the entire footprint of the building. Based on the zoning, he has 0 setbacks. But they're opting not to do that because of trash collection. They need that egress stair, and they want to overextend themselves for the budget they have right at the present time. They may come back later and say, we want to build that additional space, or the zoning may change, who knows?
Is it, for the dumpster, is it possible to do a collection? Depending on who owns the front, would it make any sense? I just know that I've seen collections trucks go in there. Green Street's very difficult, as you know. It's a one-way, and it's always backed up, especially with the light right there. And I know you guys have difficulty getting back there yourself. So does it make any sense to try to put that somewhere else, or is it, there's nowhere else to put it? Even if the city, I guess in the front, it probably doesn't make sense.
He has approximately 20 feet in the rear, and then nothing in the front, nothing on the right or the left to usable. So if he put it out front, it would be, right on the plaza. And I think that's the worst of the options.
It might be a question for historic as well, because of the historical nature of the property.
Right.
They seem to think the farthest corner of the parking space is the best spot for it. They just want to have it closed, which I don't have a problem with.
Right. What about parking for the bar?
The bar...
If you could address it from the board, I'm sorry, please.
I don't own the bar, so according to what I know from my tenant, is that they have an arrangement with the parking lot directly across the street. that they use that parking lot in the evening, because they open after 4 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't seen a huge problem with that. I'm just wondering, if you do this over and it becomes successful, it might be a lot more business there, it might create more parking. And if you had thought about offering any parking in the parking lot, if you have more spaces than you need, but then the question is, I guess, whether patrons are going to be willing to walk from there to go down, so. All right.
We'll try to go quickly. Is everybody clear about the first floor?
That's the first floor. Anybody have any questions on that while he has it open? Okay.
I just did the typical floor because it's like a cake.
Yeah.
So we have an orange, a brown, green, and a yellow. Those are indicative of the size and the locations of the unit. Egress stair existing in the front.
Where is that?
This.
Okay.
And then we're making this corridor through here. We're building the new egress stair in the rear. And, just keep in mind it's subject to change based on what we work out with historical. And that will be a legal means of egress down to grade. The blue areas represent bathrooms. There'll be 3/4 bathrooms. The lighter blue area is a laundry, a community laundry space, washer, dryer.
Okay, so how many units is that right there?
4.
4. So the orange one that has a little jog to the right, looks like a boot, that's one unit.
Yes.
And the bathroom to that unit is where? And then the one to the right of that, the darker brown, is another unit, and the bathroom to that unit is where? Okay, and the green, and the blue, and then the yellow, where's that So those are not, that's not a common bathroom there?
No, they're back to back to stack the plumbing chases.
Okay.
And we're in the process of considering moving them around, but we haven't reached consensus on that in terms of creating like a bedroom alcove and a living alcove. So there's a little better unit.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Do you see everybody?
Any
Yes,
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Any
it appears,
questions?
so it looks like your intention is units, levels 2, 3, and 4, 4 units per level.
Correct.
All right, okay. Okay.
So that's the second floor?
Yes, I did, and third and fourth, they'll all look like this.
Okay, so they'll be the same?
Yes.
All right.
For construction purposes, it's easy to stack the plumbing.
Right.
This is the front facade. You have copies in your packets that we put together. Basically, the improvements are just repairs in kind to this facade, and we're correcting the stairs in the plaza to get into his building so that they're accessible.
What type of materials are you using on the front of the building?
The lower level is a brick, and that's going to stay. The second level is a slate, and it's painted, and Historic's talking about maybe stripping it or painting it again in a more appropriate color. And then the middle floor, floor 3, is clapboard, and then floor 4 is a mansard roof. It has slate shingles on it. What we will be doing is picking up, based on the present thinking with Historic, is we're going to pick up with a synthetic slate and wrap it around the building to bring the mansard image around. And then possibly use a clapboard, but that's still up for debate with them also.
And all that's new material, correct? That's all
Yeah.
stripped, so it's all new?
Yeah, if you notice when you went by, you see the brick on the sides and the old clapboards. We removed the vinyl siding. Mr. Yates had a contractor come in, remove the vinyl siding at our recommendation so that we could find all the buried windows, because he intends to restore all the windows that were there and covered up under the vinyl. And then
So if windows are bricked over, they're going to be dug out, and now you'll
Yes.
have more windows than you have now?
Yes.
But you would have to, because every unit would have to have, I think the
Correct.
code it would have to have,
Yes.
okay.
And I want to add, the only way we wouldn't brick up the windows is on the bar level, because of security reasons. So you'll see on the next photo where what we wanted to do is make the building look cohesive all the way around the building with all the windows, and you'll notice in the future drawings.
I want to just dovetail into what Paul's saying. Initially, we proposed doing a contrasting piece for the rear stair, And the back of the building is all wood frame, and it's in, not in good structural shape. We're gonna repair it. But we had proposed contrasting, and the historic had suggested that we complement. Now, in speaking with Steve Stoll, what he said is they're thinking maybe they will go back to a contrasting solution and keep the original building looking original, and then the new piece on a newer level. But it'll be something historically acceptable.
Okay.
The other thing I want to note on this front facade, if you see the piece on the top here, there's two things going on up here. We're proposing a roof deck and solar collectors. So what you're seeing is the access to the roof deck. We don't know what shape it's going to be at this point, but we will need to bring it up so that we have a door so that residents can use the roof deck. And it's held back from all the edges of the building.
Do you need any type of relief for that from this board?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So it is a flat roof, so the proposal would
Yes.
be you'd do that over and,
Yes, I think that would fall under Historic Board, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Okay.
David did say we plan on putting solar panels on the portion of the flat roof, obviously, to save on electricity for the common areas. And we were going to use a PVC roofing.
It's a white reflective roof so that we can maximize the solar gain.
Will that have any impact on any of the surrounding properties?
They're going to be flat to the roof, so the sun will go through them and it'll reflect back up, so we'll get double the energy. But we're also...
And the deck covers up the remainder, and the mansard also tips back slightly, so it eats up a little bit of the perimeter.
Okay.
These are all things...
If you do the roof deck, would that be also open to patrons of the bar?
No.
So it'd be restricted just for the residents?
Residents only.
Okay.
Because the pitch to the bar has a foot, so they have their outdoor ability.
Right. I just thought, what about an elevator? Aren't you required to have an elevator?
The law is that when the building's accessible to the public, an elevator is required. The issue, the code states that if we do I believe it's under 20 units, 20 or more, we're required to have one accessible unit. So we're doing 12 units. That gets us away from the elevator requirement, and we're making the bar entrance accessible to the public, and we're providing accessible restrooms. So we're meeting all the requirements.
So it's all ADA compliant?
Yes.
Even the second, third, and fourth floor?
Those are not ADA compliant, but they're not open to the public. It's like your home,
Right.
They're private residences.
So that does not require ADA compliance?
Correct.
Really? Okay.
It does require some level of compliance. I believe it's Group 1 or Group 2 compliance, which is wider doors and, so if somebody wanted to use it, they could. Under the code, if I'm not, Bob can pitch in if he knows, but under the code, I believe it's 20 or more, you're required to provide one accessible unit. That would trigger the elevator. And that was one of the decisions to scale them back to the 12 from the 20 that we originally were thinking about. We were looking at an elevator, but the size and the cost of the elevator.
Right, I thought it had something to do with the level of the renovations that might have, but I probably
It's
wrong.
tied into cost.
It
absolutely.
There are different thresholds before AAB kicks in.
Yep.
Architectural requirements, accessibility. He doesn't appear to meet those thresholds for the upper floors, and the basic threshold is the number of units. I would need to check the language, but I believe he's correct. However, the first floor is totally accessible to the public, so that one has to come into full compliance. And given the nature of and the amount of work on the entire building, he would do that, and that would be easy enough to do.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know, obviously, we don't even have to make it a condition, it's ADA compliant, it has to be, right, from your board?
We struggled with that question for a while, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because he was looking for the 21, and I said, gee, that'll mean we need to put the elevator in, and after doing his pro forma, the elevator costs, cutting the units back, he was able to do it.
The economy had a lot to do with it, because we were building up the whole footprint of the property. So it wasn't just going to be inside the existing building. So So that's why we scaled it back to inside the existing building.
Is it going to be open market tenants, or is it going to be Section 8, or what are you looking at?
We're actually...
If you could just address, I'm sorry, but everybody has to kind of...
Currently, we're thinking open market. We also have we're thinking of speaking with Middlesex Community College. We heard that they're in the market for an area for their foreign exchange student program. So we were going to propose, we've spoke to them, but they said that they wanted to see drawings. And this process has been ongoing for a year and a half with David, myself, and Historic, because we wanted to be ready with a cohesive plan on what we were going to accomplish. So it would either be on the open market, or would potentially go to Middlesex or Lowell, or to have some sort of off-campus housing, which would be in an apartment standard.
Okay.
We'll move on to the...
Sure.
Yeah. This is the Dunkin' Donuts side of the building, the right side.
Mhm.
And basically, what you're seeing is all of the existing openings are filled in with windows, except for the 3 on the base, which are the bar. And Steve Stoll has said that they would like to see them made into niches, and it's a bad masonry job, is the bottom line. So we're going to have to clean it up in some manner to make it a more sightly. The window on the left side here it's a sliding window, and Historic has asked me to make it a picture window similar to the left side of the building, which is it's a large picture. The only issue here is we have the bar behind here, so we may not be able to make it exactly the same. And you can see the railing and the roof. This was a first pass at what we would try to do. We're picking up on the Rialto building on the opposite side. But I'm thinking Historic's not going to go for this.
Okay.
This is the rear elevation. What you're seeing is clapboard, which is there now. It's probably going to be a hardy plank, which is a cement fiber, takes a coat of paint. That's the direction we were given at this point in time. If they want to complement, we also are asked to bring the mansard around, like I had stated. It's up on the top there, and it will probably, more than likely, it's going to continue through right across the back. And what we'll do is we'll design this tower structure to be more less invasive, more set back, so you don't read it as easily.
What about the pavement there? I mean, really the only pavement you have the bricks in the front, right, on the patio that you may or may not own, or probably don't own. What about in the back, with the side you don't, because most of that's Dunkin' Donuts? Towards the back where the dumpster is that, I can't remember if that's newly paved or?
It's fully paved.
Fully paved?
Yeah, and it has that, the Dunkin' Donuts guardrail that they put in.
Right, right.
But the guardrail is on the Dunkin' Donuts property, so it has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
We're going to put an enclosure around the dumpster. I mean,
Are you going to repave, resurface that area?
We figured after any sort of work was done.
You probably have to.
Probably be some digging for the
Stair tower.
Stair tower. There's going to be a lot of work done around it, but of course that would be repaved with the existing curb cut.
Okay.
He also has removed some of the fire escapes are gone, and he's removed some of the more, I'll call it rubbish, trash, or, structures that were not too safe.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead. Anybody who wants to jump in, by the way, any questions, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question about the rear of the building, the paved area? You own the paved area?
Correct.
So what will the paved area be used for,
It's where
say
we're
the
gonna-
project is
We're
complete?
going to locate the dumpster there.
It'll only be for the dumpster?
No, there's one parking spot for the bar, the bar owner. Usually the bar owner uses it.
So as far as, I know you talked about the parking for I guess I'll call it the bar business.
Yeah.
Is that all that we need to meet, is just one parking spot?
Well, no, I think he has to have the parking, it has to be compliant with the parking under the zoning it is right now, and you indicated that's either, they're not here for parking relief, or,
No.
so,
The bar, we believe the bar to be grandfathered. It doesn't have any parking now, never had parking. And if the property initially was a bigger parcel that the city subdivided, and removed any opportunity to have any kind of parking for that bar.
Right, I think what Bill's getting at, and it's kind of what I mentioned at the beginning, if you're having 12 residential units, which could potentially have 2 drivers in each one, I would think no more than that, but could have 2, that could be 24 vehicles. Are you required under zoning to seek a variance for parking? I see the letter from...
The zoning allows us to seek off-site, allows us to get off-site
So long as
parking
you're
in
within a
garage.
certain amount of feet? And,
Yes.
All right, and you're within that?
We believe we are. I haven't physically measured it. It's
Okay.
the closest parking.
Well, I think Bill brought it up because it's a good point. If I think the biggest issue here is if you have a parking issue, whether it's related to the bar or the residential unit, you'd have to come back and get that variance. So we'd want to know up front whether or not you think you have that. Did you see any issue there, Bob, with parking, or?
No, not on the surface. I'd have to check some of the language, but having the garage right down the street, right, I think that's part of it. The distance of travel needs to be checked and verified. But I'd like to look into that part of it a little bit closer. I don't think the parking for the garage is an issue so much as it is for the residential units they're proposing.
Right, so you mean parking for the bar as opposed to, right, because it could have 24 units, and say at the most you need is 2. We do have a letter there, so hypothetically, if this board were to approve it with a condition that you always, at every time, have secured at least, 24 parking spots, that would be, if for some reason, you were suffering financially and you didn't pay that lease, then this board would have, I believe, would have the ability to pull your permit because you wouldn't be in compliance with one of the conditions. So we don't want you to go through all this and have that obstacle hanging over your head. So it might be a good idea to address that now, or accept the condition if that's what if that's what you're willing to do.
The units are very small. They're 380 square feet. We would be willing to accept a 1 parking spot because, we know everybody's going to have a car. But 2, the cost is excessive for the amount of units that we have, especially in this economy, and the amount of money that it's going to cost to rehabilitate this building to historical means. It is a full gut job. There are no existing bathrooms other than communal bathrooms. Communal living no longer exists in our society. It's not a marketable option anymore. Everyone wants a bathroom.
I think also the city's plan, the Hamilton Canal District is right across the street, and I think the city's plan overall is to bring market rate housing to the downtown. So I think he's proposing something that is in keeping with that. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Right, I think what Bill was referring to, what I'm going to refer to is that there's no petition, no variance before us for parking, so we have no authority to grant that at this point. If you're saying, you'd accept that, it's your job to present it to us as that petition, and we'd like to see it as a whole. I mean, if it's all one package, so if we approve a special permit and then you determine later that you need parking variances, you may get the special permit, but you may or may not get a variance for parking, which I consider a bigger issue than, the special. I think everybody likes the idea of what you're doing to maybe one of the biggest eyesores in the city, and I think everybody can understand the expense that you're going through, and hopefully it works for you. But I think that, from at least my perspective, I won't have any problem with the special permit, especially with the control with the historic board, who I have a great deal of faith in, as to what they're going to hold you to. So I don't think we need to address the exterior, the aesthetics, or anything like that. I think we've got the best people who can address those on it. My question is, and that Bill had mentioned, if we approve all this, and you don't have a variance for parking, so we can't really address the parking tonight except to ask you questions, and then it's determined that you need 2 spots.
Is it determined?
Well, we can't answer that because it's not before us. The only issue before us today is the variance. And if somebody has information on it, I'm not sure. I think that you need. I know that there is an exception if you are within a certain amount of feet to a public garage. My question is, what if that garage from the jam plan or whatever is filled to capacity, which is the goal, and then you don't have any parking? And then, you know, we've approved this, but you've got no parking. So
I think the concept, I was asked to attend some of this form zoning hearings, you know, the public outreach, and what they articulated, the concept of this was that during the evening hours, the garage is used for residents, and then when they go off to work, it opens up for business use. And I would suspect that they have, the planners that design the garage in the city have given some consideration to that duality of the spaces there in the garage. We also, we did review the zoning, and I met with Kathy in the building department 2 to 3 times about, you know, the zoning requirements, because what I got caught over the years, the zoning actually changed on me from what we originally agreed to. And it actually got more lenient than more restrictive. I thought it was going to need a variance on the unit sizes. And we found out that because we're in the DMU, there's over 7 units, I'm allowed a special permit. You know, I
for
can
the reduced size of...
No size restriction, it's only in the artist.
750 to whatever you're doing, but I guess, I think you should determine, and, you know, this is up to you later, but I think you need to determine whether or not you need a parking variance. It sounds like you probably have determined that in your position anyways, that you don't. So, as a board, I don't think we're going to address, we can't address any variance. We can't say, all right, we're going to allow you 1 or 2. We can't address that issue at all. We can bring up the concerns that we have for parking, and then we're going to go on your representations that you don't need any relief from parking.
As of the last time I checked it, that was my understanding.
Okay.
I
Does
mean,
anybody have any information on this at all?
Mr. Chairman, I may be able to shed a little light on this situation. Well, it appears, first, I want to make sure my perception is right here. Now, these are more or less studios, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that does make a difference, okay? Now, it's my understanding, Mr. Chairman, that they have 42 parking spaces in the Edward Early garage allocated, in other words, reserved, okay? And last I checked, just a few weeks ago, that garage is about half at best to occupancy. So in other words, if something, there is a big spur on parking, they have to put aside 42 for Mr. Yates. So I think the parking will be there. He has more than he needs. And I want to say that the zoning downtown is only 1 spot per unit, especially being a studio. So it may be an issue, but I really honestly don't believe it's going to be.
Okay, Rick, did you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, can we take a 5-minute recess?
Sure. Did you guys agree to a 5-minute recess?
No problem.
One thing I'd like to bring up.
Go ahead.
If I may, before the recess. In a letter dated October 7th, 2008, from Chuck Kine, it does specifically say, I'm writing to confirm that you will be allocated 42 parking spaces in the Edward J. Early parking facility located at 135 Middlesex Street. References the rate per month. However, what this says, it then says, this is subject to change by Lowell City Council. So does that mean that it has not met the requirements of the approval of the City Council?
No, I think that's regarding the rate change, Mr. Knox, if I'm understandingly, that the rate could change per city council per month.
All right.
Yeah. Good point, though.
Right,
Yeah.
that might be the case. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, if everybody agrees. Okay, be back on in 5 minutes.
plans.
He doesn't need it, yeah. It's a year old, he's been, for a year, he's been.
Okay, we're back on the record on 278 Central Street. The board took a brief 5-minute recess to consult the zoning book as to an issue that came up regarding parking. And we will begin to continue the meeting. Mr. Kinsella?
No, 1 more minute before. We're going to take the board's recommendation about the parking, and we'll continue to the next hearing.
Okay, so an issue came up where there may be an issue as to the applicant needing a variance for some parking, depending on the distance from the building to the closest public parking garage. The requirement is 400 feet. In good faith, the applicant has stated that he's not sure if he's easily within that or a little bit beyond it, but we do all agree that it's probably pretty close. So a suggestion is being made that the matter be continued to the next public hearing, and we can pick up at this stage after it's determined whether or not a parking variance is required or any other variance at all regarding the units. I think maybe 2 weeks to clarify some loose ends is probably the best thing to do. I do know that there is one person here, at least, willing to who wanted to speak tonight. Mark, is there something you wanted to say?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I'm familiar, having walked the area with the property in question. And I'm in favor of this project. It certainly, for 2 reasons. One, it lowers the unit numbers from 24 to 12, and I believe it will increase the tax base for the city. But also, I think that with the 2 parking garages in the city and the Hamilton Canal District development, they're going to have their own parking garage that they're going to be doing. You have the early garage, but you also have the Lowell Locks garage. And I think that there's ample parking between the 2 that will satisfy the parking requirements for the residents that will be living in that building. So I urge that whatever you do finally decide, that the final approval is granted on this proposal.
Thank you, Mark. And I think the board agrees that it's a project that it's needed. The special permit is something I think the board is looking favorably upon right now. I just think that we want to make sure that we do it right, not so much for our purposes, but for yours as well, and that we don't delay you unnecessarily, and you don't waste any time on the board unnecessarily, unknowingly. So I guess the suggestion is continue to 23rd. You know what issues you need to address, what concerns we have regarding the parking, and whether or not you need a variance at all for the dwelling unit, where it appears as though it's unlikely, at least that's what you're telling us. But if you could just confirm that and confirm the parking, and then we could pick up at the next meeting where we left off rather than go through everything. I think everybody's familiar now with what you're proposing. We have some more time to look at the drawings you presented, and again, I think with the oversight from the historic board, we're confident that that saves us a lot of time, and obviously the planning board hasn't had to address any of those issues because it falls under the scope of the historic board. So I think everybody's comfortable with that. We do have some concerns with parking, whether or not you need any other variances regarding this project at all. So I'd entertain a motion to continue this until the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is the 23rd.
Second.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, before I do make a motion, to sum this up briefly, so if the parking garage exceeds 400 feet, he will need a variance. If it's within 400 feet, the application doesn't change. Am I correct?
We're not sure about that. I think, the way we're looking at it is if it's within 400 feet, he may not. If it's in excess of that, he may need one. But then the question is, per dwelling unit, how many parking spaces does he need on the face of that? And I think that's what you're going to...
We can iron that out too, number of spaces per unit. Okay.
Right.
We'll do a little more research, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Well, we need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue to February the 23rd, 2009.
Seconded.
Okay, we had a second. Stephanie, roll call, please.
Continue.
Continue to February 23rd.
Continue to February 23rd.
Okay, gentlemen, this matter's been continued unanimously until February 23rd. No requirement to give any more notice. There will be no more public notice. Anybody at home wishing to address the board on this petition could show up that night. It's February 23rd for the continuance. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Good luck. Yep. I think the final portion of the agenda is accepting of the minutes for the last couple of hearings. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Minutes accepted. Is there any other business?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.